Welcome to another episode of Caribbean Talks. Avnel Romeo Williams did a fabulous job being the host for the last 4 sessions. But today I am joining you as your host, Latoya Roberts-Thomas, a communications consultant by profession and also an advocate for all things Caribbean. We are midway through our 10-part series of Caribbean Talks. Thank you to all our viewers who have joined us so far for the episodes. This is a 10-part online series that helps to encourage dialogue and highlights many issues that are affecting us in the Caribbean. We continue to talk about music, about lifestyle, health, fashion, and other conversations that embraces the uniqueness and the interest of what it means to be Caribbean. For today's topic, we will focus on agriculture. Episode 5 is all about green thumbs in the backyard. Joining us for today's discussion would be Mr. Ken Webster, a local farmer, and Ms. Dasia Edwards, Director of Leaf Festival and an advocate who encourages many young persons to engage in sustainable agricultural practices. Here at Caribbean Talks, we seek to highlight the interests of the Caribbean people by connecting the diaspora and the world through conversations. Let's take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors. Caribbean Insights, an online platform that focuses on Caribbean lifestyle by providing information on current affairs, lifestyle, political developments around the region. You can visit the website at www.mycaribbeaninsight.com. LRT's Media and Business Solution, empowering business and improving lives by providing transformative services to clients primarily in the Global South. And also we have A.D. Romeo and Associates Consultancy, fostering sustainable development through innovative services worldwide. I'm inviting you to join the live, share it with your friends and networks all across the Caribbean region. Viewers, you can like, share, comment, and get involved. Viewers, you are encouraged to also put your questions and your comments in the live, and we will try to address them throughout the show. So let's move on to our first speaker because we are going to talk about agriculture. Mr. Ken Webster is a registered farmer operating in Tobago. His farm is currently located in Corlan Estate, and he has been farming there for approximately 5 years. He describes his farm as medium-sized, and he grows a variety of local produce such as bananas, plantain, sugarcane, okras, and he generally serves the population of Tobago. Mr. Webster, I'd like to ask you to join the show. Mr. Webster, I do hope you're here and could join the show.
Yeah,
welcome. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Webster. So, tell us about your experience and why exactly did you get into farming?
Well, I get into farming a very long time ago. At first, we used to do a little, farming with my father and mother. That's about adventure. And it didn't last like very long, but then after I used to go to the market with my granny every Saturday. So that kind of urged me into farming. And the first thing I really planted was celery. And then after that, it's just like continuing and still about the past 5 years, I really tried making it a little larger. So it's something that you really have to have passion for. Because if you don't have that passion, I don't think you will make it because it's a lot of hard work and dedication. And sometimes you could be thrown off by simple things. So that's
simple things like what?
where
I'm
I
just
really
curious.
start off from simple things like theft, destruction of the national bird, sometimes
Which one
fungus,
is that? The
sometimes you're
cockrico?
planting something
That's
and
what you're
then
referring to? The cockrico?
the national bird, the national pest, yeah. Coquelicot.
I see.
Yeah. So it's a challenging experience. And if you really don't have a passion for it, it will throw you off.
I see, I see. So in terms of, you started to explain some of the challenges that you face. Are there any other challenges that generally local farmers face?
A lot because sometimes you water problems and then sometimes the weather. Like now, like for instance, now we're having a lot of rain and it's very challenging. Nothing coming in this weather. It's very challenging now. Even like assistant selling crops. Is that there are a whole lot of different problems that you encounter when you're doing farming.
Okay. So since you face all these challenges, what advice would you give the people who want to get into farming or starting to grow their own food? You've done it, so you might have some tips and tricks to tell me so that I wouldn't go through as much challenges that you went through, probably.
Well, basically, if you're doing like just a small backyard garden, the most you could do is like preserve water, which you have rainfall. And I think that if you're home, you could set some barrel up with a spouting and get the natural water. I mean, rainwater is more efficient than the pipe-borne water because you have no chemicals in it. So you think you get better produce. If you're living close by to a stream or river, it's better you utilize that water instead of the pipe-borne water. And
Okay.
when you're planting, you need what plants really go off is manure and weeding and molding. We don't necessarily need to use chemical on our plants. Sometimes you have little things that you may like to do, but if you're not seeing any problems with your plants, don't put anything on it. That is my advice. So try and grow your plants as organic
Organic,
as ever.
right.
Yeah, organic. So and avoid spraying poison in your garden. It doesn't make any sense you go and spray the weeds because you spray it, you still have to cut it, you still have to pull them out. So you better pull them out and continue your garden instead of using poison. Because as far as I know that in years growing up, long ago, people used to have cancer like traditional thing and it was rare, but now like everybody having cancer. And to me, it's like the set of chemicals that we actually using for the plants.
Right, right. I know there's a growing interest in persons who especially grow their food organic. You know, sometimes you go to the grocery and you see the label organic on it. Or even for me, I prefer going to the local market. But the question is always, is this organic? Are they using less chemicals on it? So you're right. If we could avoid spraying or the pesticides, etc., just using natural old school remedies to grow your plants. So I have a question. Generally in the Caribbean, do you think we produce enough food? Because I find sometimes when I go to the grocery, I can't get a local lettuce. I can't get local tomatoes. Everything is really imported these days. What are your thoughts about the Caribbean itself and the amount of food that we are producing for us to eat?
Well, I think, well, actually, we're far off, we're way behind. Way, way behind. I don't think we can, what to say, sustain half a Tobago. food, much less to import. It's really challenging because you can't get
So I think
manure is a problem
manual, yeah, getting manual, okay.
from, and then the seaweed that they say is so very vital that we can use. They have truckloads upon truckloads, and where they do, they dump it somewhere in the bush. I mean, if you know you're into gardening and you want it to sustain food into the when you move it, removing this seaweed, at least you could go and dump it in the area that they're doing the gardening so they get easy access to it. That will help a lot. Right?
Okay. So definitely we in the Caribbean need to do a little bit more in terms of growing our own food, stop importing and use the natural environment around. We have a question. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think a little, we need to do a lot more.
A lot more.
A lot more. A lot more.
Okay, okay.
Because
I
right now,
agree.
right now I have like about 4 beds of celery. And the amount of people running down them celery, I don't have enough to give because of the weather. So it's a lot challenging. And we have people who like acquire or receive land for planting and not serious people. So the land is just there, bush. And then when the dry weather coming over, that is hazard for bush fire.
Fires, right.
And I mean, exactly so. We need to be more serious in what we're doing because the behavior of especially young people, we ain't getting nowhere in a hurry.
So the young people need to farm some more. That's what you're saying.
Well, not some more. I mean,
a lot.
I mean, they prefer to. When I look around, it's just like a lot, and just wasting the days away and just sit on you side doing nothing. And the older folks who really interested in how much they could do. So we have a big problems on our hand. Then come into our report.
Okay. We have a question coming in from Facebook. Somebody is asking if I'm just starting a backyard garden, first time farmer, now starting off small. What are some of the recommended crops or produce I should start with?
It depends on what you like. You start off with what crop you like. But I started off with celery and then lettuce. I do some side, never leave out that. Pak choy. You could try kale. Cabbage is a bit challenging. With cabbage, cabbage take room very easy, right? So if it's short crops you're looking at, we could try little tomatoes, sweet peppers, pimentos, cucumbers. So you're starting off and then, all right, if you're looking for short crops, the fastest short crop is cucumber.
Okay.
Followed by lettuce and pak choy and kale. And then you could start off with your celery and the side little parsley. So you know what, with that, tomatoes, you know, from there you have your kitchen garden. So you know, I don't have to go out the road to buy anything. So once you plant that, first you have to fork up the land or dig it up. Use a fork or a pickaxe. And then you could make your beds. I love making my bed out of bamboo.
Okay.
So you can make your bed out of bamboo, and then all those grass that you cut from your lawn and all them rotten leaves, and so you throw it, you rake those up, and you prepare the bed with your manure. You can use sheep or goat manure. I think that is the easiest, that you don't have to really think about burning your plants and rabbit manure.
Right. That's true, because if you don't mix the compost right, you'll damage the plants, yeah?
Well, not with the sheep manure. But if it's chicken manure, that have to dry properly. So if you use that, it burn on all your plants. So chicken manure is for experienced people.
Okay, like you.
So if you have rabbit manure, you can use anytime.
Okay.
Yeah, the rabbit manure you can use anytime, and the sheep and goat.
Okay.
So that basically, and then after you plant, you give your plants like about 2 weeks. You're supposed to see weeds coming up. It's just a simple thing, weeding and mulling. If you leave them, and then you weed up them plants and mold them, you go back next year, you're surprised to see the growth of those plants without any chemical. I grow lettuce, massive lettuce, and not a drop of chemical on it. And you'll never believe. So I just wonder why we have to use this set of chemicals on plants. It doesn't make any sense. And if you use this set of chemicals, what will happen? You have no shelf life. But you put it in the fridge, it won't last you more than 4 days.
Right.
It's going to run.
So I have a question to
Right,
ask about that too. A lot of customers sometimes complain that you go in the grocery and you buy the plants, and then as soon as you take it home, maybe a day or two, and the plant's built in already. Like the plant's not standing up. Long time you buy a lettuce and it could stay in your fridge for like a week. Now 2-3 days and your lettuce not good anymore.
Yeah, well, that is because the chemicals are using it. It's just the chemicals to boost the plant so it grow faster, and then it doesn't have any strength. It has no use because the set of chemical will rotten it. Wouldn't last. It have no shelf life.
I see.
Because I picked celery, chive, lettuce, and I could guarantee you I could leave a lettuce in the fridge for a month and it won't rot.
A whole month, Mr. Webster?
A whole
really?
month.
I need to come and buy at your place.
When you put the chive in the fridge, you break off all the leaves and you put the chive in the fridge, it's growing inside the fridge.
Yes, because I realized sometimes, you used to buy 7 celery before and you could have take out the stalk and replant it and it's growing now these days.
Well,
it's not growing at all.
Well, that is what I does. I replant because I bought some, I want to exaggerate too much, but 1989, there's a lady at Plymouth, name is Miriam. Well, I was living in Plymouth, so I moved to Blackfoot. I said, I have a spot behind the house. I went and found some time. I went by Miss Miriam and I bought $20 inside. So Miss Miriam, I want to plant some chive. So I come for some chive plant. She give me a nice bundle of chive. I end up with one bed of chive, with a whole bed of chive, like about 7 to 8 feet. And after that, I replant them chive. When I replant the chive, I end up with 4 beds.
Wow.
And I keep planting it. I still have some of them chive up to today. When I tell people that, but she like, he mad.
Well, I mean, you're taking good care of the crops too.
Yeah, because it's just a simple thing. Just weeding and molding lettuce grows very fast. Sometimes the lettuce tend to have a little brown on the rim of it. That is lacking of calcium. So sometimes you need to give it a little calcium or a thing what most people don't know is very good for you. For plants, is Epsom salt.
Epsom salt.
So that is all you need to give them. A little Epsom salt and a little calcium is also a salt. And that solves your problem rightly. So this new checks and these things that
we don't need all those fancy stuff. Just stick with the basic.
You don't need all them fancy stuff.
Okay.
No, you don't need all them fancy stuff. Don't need it. So I think it's just instead of trying to eat healthy, just killing yourself slowly. Because I have a sister-in-law, and she was a vegan, and she wasn't eating no meat, no fish, no nothing, only greens, and end up with cancer. Where she get it from? Because if what she was eating was healthy, she wouldn't end up with cancer. Because everybody what we're doing now is always studying is money, and the thing not going fast enough, so we give them the chemicals, so we get them to go fast, and then it's dangerous for us.
So you are a strong advocate, go organic, go local, go back to the basic roots of how we grow, just a little bit of Epsom salt and a little bit of calcium, and that's all you need on your plant.
And only if you need it, eh?
Only if you need it.
Only if you see the lettuce, only if you see the rim of the lettuce turning brown, then it's right, you know exactly well that needs some calcium. So You could wet your celery with it too. Any plants you could wet with the Epsom salt. Yes, it's very good. Instead of
We have a
sometimes we might
question from Facebook too. Where do you normally sell your produce?
Well, on the roadside. On the roadside. I normally have a 80 bag. I normally pack the back and stand up on the roadside, look the back and stand up in the road.
Okay.
I pack some on the windscreen and stand up in the roadside. I supply one vegetable mart that can be with lettuce. But again, it's better you sell your crops yourself, because when you go there, they pay you next to nothing. I mean, everything raising, and it's more than 5 years now. I selling them lettuce and the price is still the same. Everything raised, brush cutter head raised, gas raised, and they're not increasing the price. So everybody just want everything next to nothing, and the farmer who bending the back and doing all the hard work, nothing for you. You gotta be sucking all this all. Rain and sun, bend back to dig up the ground.
But I think it comes with a passion and an interest in your farm too. So once you invest in it, I encourage you to continue farming. I have one more question for you, Mr. Webster, before we wind down this conversation. What role do you think the average man can play in ensuring we as Caribbean people eat healthy? The average man, what advice do you have to give to them about healthy eating?
Well, I could say try planting your own garden and avoid using chemicals. I mean, the water does a lot, especially if you have the river or rainwater.
The rainwater, yes, I agree.
That does a lot.
Okay, so Mr. Webster, it was really nice chatting with you today.
Rainwater, once you get rainwater.
Okay, so use the rainwater and I'm good to go with my plants, definitely. It was great having this discussion.
Just weed it and mold it. Just if you have the rainwater, it's better. Weeding and molding. Fungicide whatever, and you'll be a healthy eater.
Thank you so much for that. So it was so great of you sharing your insights on farming today. I really enjoyed having this conversation with you this evening. All the best to you in the future in farming. I hope to visit your farm one day in Corlan Estate in Tobago, and I will definitely check you out sometime soon, and you'll give me the best price on the lettuce, please, when I do see you. Thank you so much.
Well, the lettuce normally I sell for $10. It wouldn't be more than that. Okay, you're welcome.
Okay,
nice
great.
meeting you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Webster, for joining us on this show.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So viewers, you got some advice. Use calcium. No, sorry, use calcium, use Epsom salt. Definitely just wet your plants with the rainwater. Mold and weed. There's no need for chemicals if you don't need to use it, and you'll be fine. So before we get to the next speaker, we want to talk about the viewers that are joining the show. This is Caribbean Talks. It's a Caribbean-based online talk show, and we highlight topical issues that we face in the Caribbean. We encourage persons to join the live, share comments. We look forward to your questions coming in from social media. So our next speaker today is Dasia Edwards, and she describes herself as an artist, an activist, and an entrepreneur. In 2015, she founded and directed the first environmental festival of its kind in Trinidad and Tobago called Leaf Fest. In 2019, she was chosen as one of the top 10 agripreneurs in Trinidad and Tobago at the Y Farm Ampita program. And in 2021, Dasia was adjudged a National Youth Award winner for agriculture. She's also a Thought for Food Ambassador, which is an international NGO pioneering innovation in food and agriculture. And Dasia is the owner of Jelani Ubi, which means garden in Igbo. At Jelani Ubi, Dasia grows her own seasoning and herbs in her grow box garden and creates dry marinades for some of the beloved Caribbean foods. They are also from Herbital seasonal product line. So she's doing very organic, very natural. And she uses it to prepare like roast fish, pineapple herb, and a calypso mixed seasoning. Dasia believes in growing where even there's the toughest soil. You know, some soil really hard and you're planting and you're really not getting any growth. Dasia definitely will give us the tricks on how to grow there. So Dasia, I want to welcome you to the show. How are you this evening?
Good evening. I am well, and thank you for having me.
Great. So it's good to really have you here. You really need to give me all the tips and tricks. But before you start sharing those tips and tricks, tell me a bit, how did you start your interest in agriculture? I think that's your...
When I start? Oh, my... Yes. So I started at a young age because I grew up on a garden, a 6-acre garden with my grandfather. But I must admit, I was not heavily interested at that time. You know, you're young still, you're seeing your grandfather working hard, you're thinking that's a lot of hard work, hot sun, that type of thing. However, I would say around while I was a teenager, I started planting cactus, and even the cactus died. Cactus
really?
that needs very little water. So a few years passed, I got into media really strongly. I did reporting even at Tobago News, TV6, and CNC3. However, in 2019, actually in 2015, I founded LEFest, which is Living Environment Arts Festival. It's an eco festival, and around it, I'd say for Amp It Up, YFAM Amp It Up 2019, that's when I was chosen as the top 10 agripreneur. And at that time, I did not have a farm, but I was doing marketing and events and promoting farmers and that type of thing. And being the only person within the top 10 agripreneur not having a farm, I was like, no, I am going to also get into farming. But what I loved about that group is the farming was very different. It was not the same thing that I saw my grandfather doing. They have some of the farmers did farming in hydroponics. Some were doing aeroponics, aquaponics, grow box farming, and different things. And that's when I got into the grow box farming. With that type of farming, you don't need even the aquaponics and hydroponics. You don't need acres and acres of land. You can do it in your backyard on one lot, you know. So yeah, so that was much easier for me. And that is how I actually got into it. And I love seeing things grow and being able to pick, you know, your produce and cook with it. You know what's in it, you know that it's safe and healthy and that type of thing.
I do agree. So that lesson from that cactus really made you motivated to keep pushing on. Nice. So I have a question. As a young person, what are your thoughts on Caribbean food security? You said you saw your grandfather growing, but you wasn't interested at that point in time. Where do you think Caribbean people are as it relates to the whole idea of food security and growing our own food?
I think, well, food security is being able to safely access, you know, your food and safe food, healthy food, and that type of thing. And in the Caribbean, well, at least in Trinidad and Tobago, our import bill is very high. Very high. We are still somehow connected to seeing the food in a package or food in a box. And we are very disconnected with how the food gets there. I'm sure there are a lot of people who just believe that it's just a package. You open your package or you open your box or whatever, and you're able to cook and you get your meals. But so much goes into that. There's a disconnect between the ground and the farmer and food itself. So persons are not very mindful of that. They waste a lot of food. and they are not growing because everyone is still disconnected. And I guess a lack of knowledge as well, not knowing how you can do different types of farming without doing the same breakback hot sun, type of farming that we saw our grandfathers doing. So still many young people are shying away from agriculture or growing their own food, which will help.
So I think we probably lost Dasia a minute there based on her connection, but I know she was leading on to the conversation saying that young people probably do not like to go to the traditional methods of farming. And I do see that as an important point, but she should have been able to share with us about some of the newer innovative ways in which we can farm. So I'm hoping that she's able to reconnect soon. We know technology sometimes does what Murphy's Law just encourages. But for me, I also tried my hand at farming for a while. Wasn't that quite successful, but it was still a learning experience. And I do agree, we in the Caribbean need to definitely grow our own food. We definitely need to engage in new methods, innovative methods. So you don't necessarily have to grow a big farm. You could start small in your backyard. You could start in pots or bottles, the containers, you cut those and you start to grow in those, especially if you're growing small just to feed the people in your household. Then you could definitely start with just the containers or a small little backyard garden and you make your way there. I think we could just continue the discussion while we wait for Dasia to reconnect. Hopefully she's able to reconnect with us. But it's definitely about trying to grow your own food. I don't know what is people thoughts on it, but I do think that in the Caribbean, we need to do a little bit more as it relates to food security. We do need to encourage more persons to grow. I know Mr. Webster said sometimes the government might give persons land or people might get resources still to plant and then they're not producing enough. So I know that is a challenge in most places that needs to be fixed. I also know the registered farmers many times have complaints about not getting access or the supportive services, because a lot of the time farming might take place in a rural area and you have that challenge of bringing your produce from the farm to the market. So I definitely see more access services need to be there. And then I know some of the challenges that we have is just climate change. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have been having a lot of rain lately. And Mr. Webster alluded to that you might lose crops or products because of climate change. We can't really stop the weather, but I think we need to plant with some innovation or plant smart to ensure that we can mitigate against those risks. Definitely government policies to encourage farming. Yes, give everybody a little tax concession or some seedlings, put in a few plants in your backyard, that might be good. Definitely more subsidies to those large scale farmers, those that are really producing for the market, definitely give them subsidies. And I also like the idea of having more farmers increase their yields every year. I know sometimes there's a complaint that there's not enough on the market and that is why we have to import because we're not producing enough. So maybe it's about encouraging more mega farms, possibly encouraging persons to produce more, encouraging more skilled labor into agriculture. There's always a stigma sometimes that persons into agriculture are the lower end of the spectrum as it relates to education, etc. But we definitely need to encourage more healthy, innovative farming practices. I definitely also see that we also need to encourage more introducing new products like grapes or even something new that we haven't been growing in the island or in the region in a while. Because right now everybody's diversifying with so many options. So I do agree in terms of encouraging new products. And we are hoping that Dasia could reconnect with us because she had a bit of technical difficulties there, but she should be able to join back the conversation soon. So we welcome her to join and then we will continue because she can't run away because she needs to give us those tips and tricks on how to grow in the grow box. So Dasia, are you back with us? I hope she is.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you for connecting back with us. Great. So we could continue the conversation and I don't know why my phone is ringing off. So we have to continue the conversation. Tell me something about the projects that you have been engaged in.
Right. So I've worked on several projects when it comes to agriculture. I've been part of the Ambit Up Y Farm project. I also have my project, which is Leaf Fest, where we keep an eco-friendly event every year. However, we have been, suspended during the COVID season, but we will start back next year. I'm also part of Thought for Food. So as a Thought for Food ambassador, earlier this year, we kept a Caribbean webinar for an entrepreneur from Barbados who's a chef. We also had an entrepreneur from Tobago as well who does the dasheen flakes. Well, the cereal flakes made from the corn. Well, it won't be corn flakes, but dasheen flakes. And we also had another event on the circular economy where we also featured different persons from across the Caribbean in Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, who does agriculture and in the circular economy, which is really just no waste. So if you have like fruits or produce or leaves, anything that would have gone bad or rotten away, instead of just throwing them away, you just reuse them in your garden as manure and stuff like that. And the last project I was involved in this year, I am also the vice president of JCI Trinidad. So one of our first project this year was our Adopt a Home project, where we did a garden where we planted a kitchen garden, again using innovative methods. Instead of just planting on the ground, we used barrel, so we did a vertical garden as well. For their kitchen garden at the home, so that would also reduce their grocery bills, and it has been doing that throughout this year, both for food and locally as well. Mm-hmm.
Those sounds are really innovative projects. I really like the idea of the one that you did with JCI Trinidad, where you're really encouraging persons to use innovative ways to grow. So sometimes, somebody might have an apartment or a little space and they don't think that they can grow. So yeah, I understand and I appreciate that. Tell me a little bit about the National Youth Award that you won in terms of agriculture. Just share that experience with us. Dasia, I hope you're still there.
Hello?
Yes, you can go ahead now. Tell me your experience in terms of National Youth Awards, and you won in agriculture field, yes?
Yes, I was really surprised. Garden kits. The garden kits are just like recipe kits, but instead of having the produce, the actual food item in the box, it's plants. So there's the breakfast garden. So the breakfast garden will have okras, tomatoes, eggplant or melangin, whichever you call it. And same thing with the pizza topping, the salad garden. It's actually plants, and you get like soil, you get compost and eco-friendly garden pots. So the pots that you get in the boxes, they are biodegradable. So you can actually, instead of having to remove a plastic bag and throw it away, you can plant it directly in the ground. And Ministry of Youth, I was nominated, and Ministry of Youth, I guess they really like the idea of sustainable farming, and
We're losing Dasia a little bit because of the internet connection. Continue now.
The whole idea of, being able to, I said, I guess Ministry of Youth, they recognize me for being able to promote growing food in small spaces that you didn't need to have, a food, grow their own food, grow an actual recipe. So when you plant the plants that comes in the kits, you're actually planting a recipe, whether it's for breakfast, pizza, salads, and that type of, those different things. And it also assists with food security. And I was awarded in 2021. That year, I was also featured on the three newspapers: Trinidad Guardian, Trinidad Express, the Express, the Guardian, and the Newsday. Right, the Express, the Guardian, and the Newsday. And
wow, you're a real agri-star.
And what else we had going on? Right. And I attended some markets as well. And also Kariri. Kariri, I was invited by Kariri for their DIA lab project. So I graduated from that recently. So yeah, this year,
Nice.
so 2021, in 2020 was a pretty interesting year after winning the award.
So question, how do people get your product? Where can they get these grow kits?
Right. So you can look the grow kits, which is EST on Instagram. And the so those are the garden grow kits. And this year, after time of growing and realizing that some of the plants would, especially when we had before the heavy rains, we had like a really dry season. So some of the plants were dying and drying up, and I started making the fish seasoning and pineapple herb seasoning, and that is under the line Ubi, which is habitual seasoner herbs, because it's herbs.
Right.
Come on.
So then you can get your stuff on Instagram, and hopefully you want to be in some retail outlets soon in the near future.
Yeah. I've been having those conversations with different outlets, tree outlets. I also attended an event yesterday with Kariri, and we were going through the whole process of getting on shelves and that type of things.
Okay, that's good to know, because I think it's good when you're able to really package your product and market it. Someone is asking on Facebook, what exactly is your product? If you could just go over what are your product lines, and also if any of them are gluten-free. Tell us about that.
Okay, so so the garden kits are recipe kits, but they are plants. So you'll get tomato plants, okra plants. That's for the breakfast garden, and you'll also get compost, soil, and stuff to help you grow your garden. Same thing with the pizza topping, salad garden, and the different gardens that we have. We also have cocktail garden. I forgot to mention that. And under the Jelani Ubi, our habitual seasonal line, it's the roast fish seasoning, and they have no additive, no salt. It's just no preservatives or anything like that. It's just the herb, dried herbs, and it's 12 different herbs. So KFC has 11 herbs, but so I will count and make sure. It was 12 different herbs. The pineapple herb. I really love pineapple gin and pineapple fish. And sometimes you don't always have $2 or how much ever to purchase the entire pineapple. And when you purchase the entire pineapple, you still have to peel and cut it up and all that. So with the pineapple herb, if you're feeling for pineapple fish or pineapple chicken, you can just use the seasoning. The seasoning contains pineapple and all herbs mixed in it already, and it gives you very good flavor, pineapple, flavor. And the Calypso mix is all purpose. And that's the only one that contains salt.
Okay.
But no preservatives, no additives, no nothing.
Very good. So very organic. I like how the two speakers this afternoon really pushing for that organic lifestyle. Really back to the traditional old school backyard garden. That's it. Before we end the conversation, just tell us if persons want to reach out to you to know more about your services, your experience, to get tips on home gardening and agriculture, how exactly will people contact you?
They can contact me via my phone number 705-4884. I'll repeat that again, 705-4884. And they can also mail LeafFest, in terms of the garden kits, so it's LeafFest, LeafFest. Oh, it's F.
I think what we
And
could
for
put the comments, we could put a comment in the chat on the live to make sure people get the right contact for you. Definitely not a problem.
The number is 705-884, or on Instagram is the fastest, easiest way, which is LeafFest, EAFEST, or Jacobi, JELANIUBI.
Okay, thank you so much. We have one last question coming in from social media before we wrap up. Do you encourage other young persons like yourself to get into agriculture? What advice do you tell the young people when they find out now that you're actually farming? What do you tell them?
Right. Well, I just tell them to start, because if you keep waiting on a large piece of land, waiting on, just start with, even if it's just a few seeds. So you can use anything. You can use containers from home, bottles, coffee bottles, and just start. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard. We have so many innovative ways of growing. You don't even need dirt to grow anymore. You can actually just grow in water. So, everything now is so innovative and interesting and so different that there's no excuse not to start. If your interest is not necessarily in agriculture and you're more in science, there's aeroponics, where you don't even need water or dirt. It's a mist in the air that is used as nutrients. So that agriculture is such an interesting field now that anyone can get involved.
I do agree about agriculture being a very interesting field. And now you're inspiring me to, work on those green thumbs and get back in my garden and really put down my lettuce and my salvia, my celery and my tomatoes, etc. So I do appreciate this conversation today. Well, Dasia, you shared a lot with us today. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. I think it was well worth it. Continue to do a great job in terms of your packs that you're providing, and also all the herbs. I need to go look for them in retail outlets soon. So do hurry and get that done. Continue to encourage other young persons in the field of agriculture. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Well, viewers, it was a healthy discussion this evening. And we really enjoyed speaking to Mr. Ken Webster, who's a local farmer, and Ms. Dasia Edwards, who is the director of LEAF. Now I need to go back and check my backyard gardening skills and see what I can do. But to end this evening show, I would like to thank our sponsors, Caribbean Insight, for the work they have been doing to share topical information around the Caribbean. Caribbean Insight focuses on lifestyle, health, culture, sports, food, current affairs, and much more. So check us out at www.my CaribbeanInsight.com. LRT's Media and Business Solutions for all your media and consulting support needed for the show, and also AD Romeo and Associates Consultancy, fostering sustainable development through innovative services worldwide. Viewers, we are coming to the end of the show, but I would like to encourage you to definitely join us next week. Join us next week. You know why? Because we do have an exciting topic. It's all about the creative persons. We are looking at upcoming artists in the Caribbean. So those who are into cultural endeavors, whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's creative industries, we do encourage you to join us for that. And we look forward to more persons joining us in Caribbean Talks. It was a pleasure hosting with you all this afternoon. I am Latoya Roberts-Thomas signing out this evening and look forward to seeing you next week.